Now this is the IONIQ 5 XRT. Now we have a video on the channel reviewing this by Jordan, kind of going through the full review, but this thing is an off-road sportier version of the regular IONIQ 5. Now, hardware-wise, I believe it's pretty much the exact same thing. There is, I believe, like a 1.5-inch ground clearance boost, which helps going on some dirt roads, which we'll see in just a second. But this was also the first IONIQ model to get a lot of the updates that we see on the current model year IONIQ 5. For instance, this was the first IONIQ 5 to get a North American charging standard port. As we see here, this was also the first IONIQ 5 to get a rear wiper. And the rear wiper was one of the most highly requested features that people wanted in the IONIQ 5, and that is something that they implemented with the XRT first. Of course, the XRT has these all-terrain wheels and tires. We also have a lot of plastic bumper cladding and side panels here. And so that just makes hitting things when you're off-road a little easier. And I imagine if you hit something a little cheaper to fix or replace or deal with rather than a standard aluminum or steel body. And this is absolutely beautiful in this red. Of course, we have this gray and this blue here. But this is really like a standard IONIQ 5. It does have a tow package as well, but nothing much else is different about this IONIQ 5 versus, you know, a regular IONIQ 5 that we have all the way over there, which honestly, in my opinion, makes this a pretty good deal because it allows you to, you know, do some more off-roady things if you choose. I imagine those who live in climates where you need all-wheel drive, this would be a excellent option. But, you know, let's take this thing off-roading. All right, we got the IONIQ 5 XRT, and we're gonna try to drift this thing in sand mode on this track. They currently got the water truck out there trying to calm down some of the silt and sand that's up in the air. It gets really dusty, and there's so many IONIQ 5s that have been on this track, and so there are some deep tire grooves and lines in the road. And so I'm ready for this thing. Adam, you're holding the camera. Are you ready as well?
Absolutely.
This guy, you're going fast, man. He was rocking this thing. You had 58 seconds. That's the time to beat right now. Yeah. As I've mentioned, the XRT IONIQ 5 really has no material differences compared to the other all-wheel drive versions of the IONIQ 5. But you do get some software differences, which gives you some other drive modes, specifically being mud, snow, and sand. Rough on the cones. We're going everywhere. All right. Very deep.
Yeah, right. Once it catches, though,
yeah,
ping you through.
All right.
After my first lap.
Really? All right. Now on this first lap, I was really getting a feeling of the IONIQ 5. I mean, I've driven the regular IONIQ 5, but on a road. Now you really have to get a feel for the driving dynamics of the car, and traction control was turned off. So I was really getting a feel for the first lap. I was in sand mode, and I realized I should turn sand mode off, and I did that. Traction control was still off, and I ended up going into sport mode, which I figured would give me a little bit more power. All right, first lap was what, 62 seconds? Okay, this time we're now in sport mode, so I'm out of sand. Ooh, maybe it's, I wonder how much it changes the, suspension with sand versus sport. We got this going. All right, ooh, almost had it going. All right, deep in here. I can't believe this doesn't hit the battery.
Hamilton though, down the back straight, he's got a slipstream, he almost touches Verstappen, they almost make contact, into turn 9, Verstappen stays ahead.
All right. See if we get a good drift in here.
Down.
54.
Wow, look at you.
All right. I think that was pretty good.
That was really good.
All right, well,
Sport mode.
yeah, sport mode was good versus sand. I think sport mode is the better option there. All right, we'll head back. Now let's actually talk about why the XRT may actually be the best IONIQ 5 that you could get, at least for most people. Now, the XRT stands for Extra Rugged Terrain. It is the off-road trim that Hyundai uses for its models. This gives it an extra inch or more of ground clearance, all-terrain wheels and tires, as well as plastic cladding on the sides and bumpers, and often some sort of nano texture that gives that cladding some sort of style. And that's the same thing for the IONIQ 5 XRT. Now, for starters, right, the XRT is literally just $1,200 more than the limited edition IONIQ 5. And when I say edition, I mean trim, the limited trim of the IONIQ 5 all-wheel drive. The XRT is an all-wheel drive vehicle that shares the same platform as the all-wheel drive dual-motor IONIQ 5 with the same battery, but it's just $1,200 more than the top limited trim edition's starting price. And you can compare that with any other off-road EV in the segment, whether it's the Mach-E Rally or the Subaru Solterra or the BZ Woodland. Those are all either not competitive in charging in range or in the $50,000, $60,000 range. And so which makes the XRT probably a really good value. Now, I live in Florida, all right? So I wouldn't probably get the most use out of the XRT. The rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive version of any car would work perfect, but for most of you, you probably live somewhere in the north where it snows and there are a lot of potholes and you want an all-wheel drive version of the vehicle. There's mountains, there's hills. I live in Florida, it's flat. I don't experience that. Well, the XRT gives you the all-wheel drive benefit that you'll want in any platform, while also giving you that extra inch in ground clearance, and again, the plastic cladding. There's also a tow package that comes with the XRT, as well as some front bumper tow hooks to get you out of a hitch. If you're in a ditch or something, you can be pulled out just for an extra $1,200. Now, this is worth mentioning that the XRT gets about 30 less miles of range compared to the all-wheel drive other versions of the IONIQ 5, and it also doesn't get things like rear heated seats, ventilated seats, a heated steering wheel. You start to lose some of the creature comforts that would kind of have the benefit of getting an all-wheel drive vehicle in the north where it's cold, right? Some of those creature comforts. But as a package, as a whole, it's actually a pretty good value. But for most people, those thicker all-terrain wheels and tires, the plastic cladding is just going to give you some added durability that I think a lot of people can appreciate. And again, you're still on the IONIQ 5 platform. It's an efficient vehicle. You do lose 30 miles of range compared to the regular all-wheel drive versions, but you're still getting decent charging. And I think for the vast majority of people, 260 miles of range, especially in an EV this efficient, especially with good charging, works just fine. One of the cooler parts is the XRT was a recently introduced trim, and all of them have the North American charging standard. So you can probably find a used XRT if that's more your style. I like used vehicles. I think you save a lot of money that way. You can find a used XRT, and it's gonna have a lot of the improvements that I talked about that the XRT has, like the rear wiper, like the North American charging standard. And so immediately, if you're looking for an XRT, you don't have to worry about getting an older IONIQ 5 with maybe CCS1 or some of those other features that the newer IONIQ 5s don't get. But for the money, the value, just for $1,200 more than the starting price of the top trim IONIQ 5, you get a more off-road version of the IONIQ 5. Now, you're not going to be climbing hills in Moab. I highly doubt that. But for the days that you need to go on some dirt. Maybe you hit a pothole or two, or you just want to go on some dirt roads or trails. I think the XRT is absolutely perfect. Now, I was talking with some of the other people there and we were conspiring. We were like, man, the IONIQ 5N, that is a really cool SUV. Why isn't there an IONIQ 5N XRT? We are moving towards more off-road vehicles just being put into the market. There are already a lot of EV off-roading vehicles from Rivian, from Hummer, Mercedes, the G-Wagon. We have Scout vehicles coming. Jeep has the Recon. Of course, Subaru has their lineup, and I'm definitely forgetting some. But there are quite a few off-road EVs that you can get. Again, the Mach-E Rally. And so it's going to be great to see more of these enter the market, but high-performance, smaller EVs for the off-road category aren't really a thing. If you want some good off-road performance, you gotta go with the Rivian or the Hummer or the G-Wagon or the Scout, which are all going to be north of $70,000, $80,000, $90,000. And if you can get an IONIQ 5N XRT, maybe somewhere near 60, smaller vehicle, I think that would be really, really cool. But that is something that I can truly only dream for. Now, this XRT is made in Bryan County, outside of Savannah, Georgia, where Hyundai has their Hyundai Motor Group Metaplant America plant. And just alongside the regular IONIQ 5 and IONIQ 9 models, this XRT will be made. But you know what I'm really looking for? Rivian R3X. I think that is probably one of the only smaller EVs that will be high performance that will get us some of the power that we're looking for in a smaller EV without having to pay $100,000 or have to drive a giant truck or SUV. It's gonna be interesting to see where the price starts for something like the R3X. I would not be surprised if it's somewhere near the $60,000 or $70,000 range, which still kind of hurts, kind of defeats the purpose of getting a smaller car paying such a high price. But that's what makes the XRT a really good value. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.